What's up, Gamecock Nation? Tashawn Wanamaker here checking in, and you're about to hear the show presented by Express Suns Rooms of Columbia. Spurs up.
It's time for Inside the Gamecocks, the show with Phil Mullinax and J.C. Sherbert.
So, how many of you would say you speak English fairly well, but with some difficulty?
Fat, drunk, and stupid is no way to go through life, son.
You play to win the game.
Now, let's take it away, J.C. and Phil.
Inside the Gamecocks, the show. J.C. Sherbert here along with Phil Mullinax. How are you guys doing today? Out there in Gamecock land, we're glad to be with you. 3 straight days for the first time for yours truly since, signing day was on a Wednesday, so it was the week before signing day.
Yeah, man. Good to have you back.
Yeah, that's the trifecta. So a lot to talk about, and I hate it when this happens, when something happens somewhere else at another school, and it's a rival school, and it's extremely positive, and there's a familiar name, and that takes over the conversation and narrative. So we'll just hit this head on, okay? Garrett Riley is now the offensive coordinator at Clemson University. Dabo made a quick move, fired Brandon Streeter. From what I was told by my Clemson folks, and they kept it very, very quiet and discreet. This was probably in the works from about after the ACC championship game on, which makes me think he started considering it after the Carolina game, after they were out of the playoff, and certainly they did not have a very good bowl game. So maybe that's the case. Maybe it isn't. Maybe the Orange Bowl was kind of what did it. If you think about it, everybody's talking like Dabo's has done for on the Gamecock end of it. They use it to criticize Shane. Shane drug his feet. Blah blah blah. Well, with assistant coaches, these things happen quickly. You're not going to go pluck a guy that's in the playoff, obviously. If you think about the timeline, the Orange Bowl was the 30th. The semis were the 31st. You wait one more week, and then that next week you go get the guy. And I think for recruiting purposes, you probably you don't want to upset the apple cart. It was interesting because Streeter was not fired until the day Garrett Riley shows up. That also makes me think maybe they were waiting on a decision, which is all interesting. And I'll say this too. I will say this too. It's I think this is not a normal Dabo hire. If you look at the last 10 years, I mean, and I know most of us want to kind of sleep through all that, but Chad Morris gets the SMU job. All of a sudden, people are like, "Well, Clemson's doomed because Tony Elliott's never called plays." Well, he did, and you saw what success they had. Well, Elliott finally gets a head coaching job, and Brandon Streeter gets promoted, and then Dabo talks about how Brandon Streeter could be this, that, and the other. A great. He could have been in the SEC calling plays and all that, and I didn't think Clemson's play calling was terrible. I thought it was fine. You want to talk about quarterbacks coaching? Should he gotten more out of DJ? I don't think so. But I kind of thought that there was a lot of unwarranted over-the-top optimism because of DJ's recruiting ranking, his arm strength, and the fact he played good during the pandemic year when he got a chance to replace Trevor. But everybody at quarterback played good during the pandemic year. Colin Hill, folks, as much as you guys, bash it, he had some good moments. Offense, nobody played defense during that year. And Clemson had a lot of weapons on the perimeter. I think the lack of perimeter weapons and the inaccuracy from DJ is what grounded their offense. Now, you want to talk about how Will Shipley should have gotten more touches and things like that. Yes, that's fair. That's fair. So that's number one. I don't think that this is something where, you look at Clemson and go, well, that's just old Dabo. He just goes and hires the biggest name possible. Look at the resume of the guys on his staff.
Yeah, it's definitely out of character for Dabo to do this.
Yeah. I mean,
this is a panic move.
Some people can say that, but I also would like to say this. I think that it could be a panic move, but I do think you have to credit him for going and landing the guy. Broyles Award winner and had a great year on offense and is a big name. So, I'm not going to sit here and bash Dabo or Clemson for it, but I'm surprised at the Carolina fans' reaction to it. I understand it's the rival. I understand that it's Clemson. I understand all that. But, hey, you beat them this year, right? And nothing. Garrett Riley being there doesn't take that game away and wipe it all the books. It doesn't change the fact Spencer Rattler and Juice Wells are coming back. Which is great news. It doesn't change the fact Carolina's got a top 15 recruiting class, like many griped about last year, because they didn't want to count Juice and Rattler and the portal guys. And so, hey, well, look, I thought this program needed more blue chip players from the high school ranks in recruiting, and they got it. More to come. It's not going to change if it happens. It's not a fact yet because it hasn't happened. Getting the top 5 2024 class lined up by March. Yeah. It's not going to change, and this is one of the crazy things I saw. Oh, Garrett Riley's coming, and so does that mean that the in-state offensive linemen are going to go to Clemson now? No, it doesn't mean a damn thing with that. I mean, it's like, these kids, Garrett Riley's a big name for Carolina fans because he was said to be in the mix when Beamer got hired. And I do want to correct the record on that too. I do think Beamer talked to Garrett. He came from Lincoln Riley's staff, so that's it. But this notion that Beamer was hamstrung and hired him because he was forced to hire Bobo because of the administration is just it's whacked out. And I'll tell you a fact, Shane Beamer and Mike Bobo have known each other for years. That's what kind of made it unfortunate that Bobo left. But they've known each other for years, and in September, before Will Muschamp was even fired, I know for a fact Beamer was seriously saying if he got the job, before he ever got the job, before he rallied the troops and went after it, I know for a fact that, hey, it'd be pretty good if, Mike Bobo would be a heck of an offensive coordinator. That's before any discussions with Ray Tanner or anything like that. So you've got the Ray Tanner posse out there with pitchforks. And, we can say what we want about Ray Tanner, but there's some things he gets blamed for that aren't on him, that any athletic director in the country worth his salt would have. Bad athletic director would have said, hey, you got to keep half Muschamp staff and we'll give you the job. That's a bad athletic director because that's a guy not focused on winning. He's focused on bean counting and things like that. So there's all that. And, as far as this time around, I continue to believe that Beamer maybe talked to one other person a little serious. I don't think it was Garrett Riley. But and again, behind the scenes, when you hear things, you kind of go back in time and think about it. There's Dowell Loggins' name in September. Oh, don't keep it, and keep repeating it on this podcast. So I just, I think at some point around here, this fan base needs to grow up a little bit and look at like what's in front of you and what's actually happening, rather than consistently worrying about winning the press conference, because winning the press conference doesn't always win you games, right? The guy up the road can tell you that. You could learn from Dabo and Clemson in this. I mean, look, the time was right. Dabo needed to go make a move. He did it. But there's been other times, I think Clemson fans would even tell you, last year's coordinator change deal, they weren't pleased. They were like, what? You're promoting from within again, blah, blah, blah. They had just come off of a pretty good season, right? 10-3, where they won, 6-7 straight, beat Carolina 30-0. I mean, I understand that around here you've had Frank McGuire back in the day, and you've had Steve Spurrier and Lou Holtz, and everybody's kind of obsessed with the big names because that's kind of when Carolina's won. But I'll say this right now, Shane Beamer's done some stuff that Steve Spurrier didn't even do in his first 2 years. And we'll see about this class. I know Spurrier, his third class, or second full class, was ranked relatively high, but if you look at how that turned out, half those guys didn't make it. So I think this is, on paper, one of the best classes in program history. Steve Spurrier didn't beat Tennessee, ranked in the top 5, and Clemson ranked in the top 5 or 10 back-to-back. He did beat a ranked Clemson team, I believe. That was Spurrier's first win over a ranked team at the end of his second year. Beamer's won how many games as a double-digit underdog? And those outweigh the losses. And I'll admit there's been brutal losses. And I can probably hang that around the neck of one coach that's no longer here. Yeah. In most cases. Not like A&M last year in 2021 where they just didn't stop them, or Georgia or anything like that. But, like the Missouri debacles the last 2 years. I mean, that was on – there was just no decent offensive game plan. They didn't have a chance. They got out-coached.
Mm-hmm.
So,
well, JC, when you're thinking looking at this, equally as interesting, and maybe for me, as I've thought about it this morning and last night, what might be more troublesome is bringing Jeff Scott back, at least for an immediate impact. Because now you've got a guy who's familiar with the state, is a known quantity in recruiting. Because that's the other thing about Garrett Riley is he doesn't have a stellar list of recruits, right? I mean, that's not necessarily. I mean, he's known as being an offensive game, manager and genius, and took a Pac-12 team to, top 40 offensive output last year out of nowhere with, 3 and 4 star guys majority. And now he's going to get to do it with a different quality of player. But
Oh,
Somebody on the horn with Bobby Bentley here.
I hope not. I hope if you're Garrett Riley, that I mean, I think if you're Garrett Riley, that's a no-brainer to take that job. You know, you kind of get out of the shadow of Sonny Dykes a little bit. And look, Garrett called the plays at SMU 2 years ago. Their fans really weren't fired up about him. I remember, or for 2 years, and then he called him at TCU this year. I remember their fans at SMU in 2020 were upset with him. Wow, the Pony fans. But you know, you get out of his shadow. You work at one of the best programs in the country for the last 10 years. I mean, I think he's going to make a bunch of money, and you get to coach in the ACC. If for some reason there were, and there wasn't, but if there was some kind of decision where Riley was choosing between Clemson and South Carolina, Clemson's getting it every time. I mean, you know, unless he was like personal friends with Shane Beamer, which I think they knew each other, but I don't know they're close. So, you know, just because you're not having to go beat your head against the wall in the Southeastern Conference every week, but you're at a program that has SEC standards, still has SEC type talent, that's at the top, that has an easy access road to the playoff. It's a no-brainer for him. But I'll say this, that's why you mentioned this, Phil, about recruiting. Man, that's why it's like, you know, people that thought, well, Cam Pringle and Josiah Thompson are going elsewhere. Now, look, it's a long way to go with all those guys.
Oh, yeah.
Blake Franks, all those guys. They could end up at Clemson. But I can assure you, if one of them ended up at Clemson or two or whatever, it's because they want to play for Thomas Austin. And it's because it's Clemson. It's not because of anything to do with Garrett Riley. I mean, you know, that's a bigger name in the minds of Gamecock fans than I think the country at large. And it is a big name in the so. And I remember this too. Broyles Award winner, can't take it away from him. His brother won the Broyles. I think he's a talented football coach. And, you know, had he been the guy at South Carolina, great. Now I'll tell you this, Luke Doty have been the quarterback because Spencer Rattler was not stay if they're running the Riley offense. You know, I found that out. Somebody mentioned it back during the OC search, and I was like, well, I don't know. We just have to see. You know, Beamer could maybe massage it. But he was out, you know, if that had happened, and it was never on track to happen. You know, so but hey, Garrett Riley with Luke Doty, I think is very intriguing, or Tanner Bailey, to be honest. I mean, he's a really good offensive coordinator. But I'll also say this, Joseph Fiennes is a classically trained actor, star of the London stage, film, whatever you name it. Very talented actor. You can ask anybody that knows acting, but he's not Ray Fiennes. You know, so if you're confusing the two out there, Lincoln and Garrett, don't do that just yet. You know, he may end up being better than his brother. Who knows? But I would just and I think there's a lot. The Lincoln Riley. This goes back to 2016, and this is probably why people are mad at Ray, because Ray interviewed Lincoln when he was in his first year as the OC at Oklahoma. Looking back, you know, as we watched some of the Muschamp teams play rock ball, you know, rock throwing contest and all that, you're kind of like, well, Lincoln Riley would have been a better fit or a better coach, right? And the reason it didn't happen, number one, Lincoln Riley was 34 years old, 1 year removed from being the East Carolina OC. Ray really liked him, but there were like 20 guys on that roster that the former staff told me, somebody you would all trust, that, hey, there's 20 guys on this roster right now that can even play in the SEC. And when Muschamp came in, I think 27 guys left the program. I think only 2 ever played college football again. They were like Richard Gere, an officer and a gentleman. They had nowhere else to go. They just quit football, never played again. I mean, Muschamp. I'll tell you right now, Muschamp told me himself. He's like, "It's the damnest thing I've ever seen in my life." Like, this is tough. Well, you know, to his credit, Will came in, signed an unbelievable class against the odds. Look at how many freshmen played on offense that year, because the cupboard was pretty bare. It was a way worse situation than what Shane inherited from Will. And I think Ray Tanner felt like, because of Muschamp's recruiting prowess and, his organization and the staff he was going to bring in, and people want to talk about staff, Muschamp had the biggest name staff of them all. I don't think they were always in the right spots, but the big name staff, right? I think that's why Ray hired Muschamp. It wasn't as easy as looking at it going, they failed Florida, failed South Carolina. That's still, to this day, I still think that's a lazy take. Now, he ultimately did not get the job done, deserved to be gone. And I think Carolina is on the right track again. Carolina's a unique place. I think you need some people that kind of understand it and embrace it. I don't know that Will ever did. I think it was just kind of his last chance, right? I do know that Muschamp felt like it was a great job, but a hard job. It's a direct quote. And, it's like, it's hard to win, but when you do, it's the most fulfilling place ever when you win games at South Carolina. And it's because of you guys, the fans. So look, I think that many people out there, I was honest about the Dowell Loggins hire, I wasn't trying to spin it. I like what he said in the press conference, but I like a lot of things people say in the press conference. I understand, and look, just me personally, Phil, and you've heard me say this many times, I don't, win, lose, or draw in the NFL. That doesn't mean you're going to win in college. Bill Belichick would probably struggle winning in college football.
Right. Yeah.
Just like Steve Spurrier struggled in the pros. I think it's the same sport, different game.
Yeah.
So him being coordinating some atrocious offenses in the league means nothing to me. Same way it would be if Carolina hired Kyle Shanahan, who's coordinated some great offenses in the league. Who, by the way, on that ESPN list of worst play callers, Kyle Shanahan was 31st. And Dowell was right behind him. So things change year to year. But I'm not going to sit here and say Dowell Loggins is going to be this great offensive coordinator. I think that some of the things about college coaching that are different from the NFL, he's embraced and thrived, like recruiting.
Right.
But I can't tell you that. I'm not going to tell you that, right?
No, you got to see the product on the field to even make that determination whatsoever.
I think it's way more of an unknown than something you could just say is awful, right? And I think some of you are acting like Paramount Studios did, and I'm not saying those folks in the chat box necessarily, or more people like out there in the internet world. People, most of them probably listen to it on the podcast later today, but I think some are acting like Paramount Studios during the filming of The Godfather, right? Because there's a lot at stake, and there's a lot at stake with that movie, and the studio's financing it, and you got all these stars, and you got all these pieces in place to have a great movie, and it's a great novel, and blah, 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 blah. But Coppola cast Al Pacino in the role of Michael. And sure, there were some bumps in the road, just like there was last year, the Clemson game, the Missouri game this year, losing to Florida. Like, there's been some bumps in the road. But the studio is ready to run him out, and almost did. And some people are acting like that over the Dowell Loggins hire, right? And they're going to run Beamer out, right? Which is, I don't know how you arrive at that, right? But I bet you Paramount's glad they let it play out. And I bet you Al Pacino and Francis Ford Coppola and the late James Caan, R.I.P., and the late great Marlon Brando are glad. I know Talia Shire's good because I think she parlayed that into Rocky, and she can't act her way out of a paper bag. Okay, and Ford Coppola's daughter is even worse. She was in part 3. They all should be thankful to Al Pacino, right? But the studio won't fire him. Well, I think some people out there are taking that same approach. There's nothing wrong with having that as kind of your life. How you judge things in life or sports or whatever, is that you want the big name and the lights and all that. Well, that's fine. Go follow the Cotton Gin on Twitter, because kind of maneuver to get your name in lights, or someone's name. Have them put Dowell Loggins up there, right? I got a T-shirt that says Dowell Loggins on it. On right now. By the way, we're selling them. But it's more of a tongue-in-cheek thing. But my point is, look, I think some coaches don't earn a little trust. I mean, I think you got to earn trust. And honestly, had Beamer finished 6-7 and kept Marcus Satterfield, no, he doesn't deserve any trust at all.
No.
But with regards to the hire, I mean, this is his third coordinator. He had Mike Bobo, which I think Bobo would have been very competent and probably would have won. Carolina's probably winning 2 more games a year if he were here. Just because, people don't think he can call plays. And I'm like, dude, you don't understand how hard it is to scheme open in a passing game, because you have to have some kind of passing game with one receiver.
Yeah.
and that's what happened in 2020. They had one receiver. Think what he could have done with many. But, and then the Satterfield thing just did not work out. I think that largely had to do more with what Satterfield actually was not what he said he was coming in. And I think Matt Rule's going to find that out soon again, I guess. Now we're on the Dowell Loggins, right? And to wrap all this up before we get to the award-winning Nana Sports chat box, and we'll get to it after our first break, Phil, because I want to address this too. Marcus Satterfield is nothing like Dowell Loggins. Nothing. Except for you hear those 3 letters NFL, okay? And let me tell you why. Marcus Satterfield was an assistant coffee boy, basically. An assistant to an assistant, right? For the Panthers.
Yeah, I was going to say, how many head or offensive coordinator jobs did Satterfield have in the NFL?
Under a career college coach who's clearly a college football coach, clearly belongs in college, right? For 1 year. And he comes back and tries to run offense like Andy Reid. And you can tell in his public speaking, you could tell the way he did coaching clinics. It was all about the NFL. He kind of the bug bit him. The NFL bug bit him, right? And, it's almost like a charlatan. He was almost a charlatan. I don't want to say he was, because that's kind of personal, but he's almost a charlatan coming in with all this NFL stuff when he's not an experienced NFL guy, especially running an offense. And I think we saw at the end, because Marcus Satterfield called every play of the Tennessee and Clemson game, I think we saw at the end, had he just run it like a college offense and allowed the players to play free instead of structured, South Carolina would have won more games. But he didn't. And I don't know. I think people that pretend to be something that not, because they don't really have the experience necessary to realize it, they're just out there trying to follow the model from the other side of the fence and don't understand that it doesn't work. And I think that's probably why he struggled calling plays his entire career, because there's no understanding of maybe I think what other college offenses do and things like that. I think his, he kind of ran his own thing, and then I think it got. It's not like when people say you get woke or whatever. He got like NFL woke. And we'll see that at Nebraska coming up, unless he's learned his lesson. I mean, I don't understand why you wouldn't learn your lesson after, you completely suck and are inconsistent and don't move it unless you're running it straight up the middle. And then you go beat one of the best defenses in the country and hang 31 points on them, despite making a lot of mistakes, and beat them and only rush for 54 yards. Right? I don't understand how you don't learn from that mistake, but some people are hard at it, and we'll see it in Nebraska. Dowell Loggins didn't follow that path, man. Dowell Loggins was in that league for 20 years. Okay. He had 5 different coordinator jobs, and they weren't all with Adam Gase, but some of them were, and he kind of followed Gase around. I don't think he's not going to run the Adam Gase offense. And then after his last job went south, Dowell Loggins decided to do a career pivot. Many of us have done that. I pivoted from print to online in 2004. And I wake up in a cold sweat every night, Phil, thinking, God, I did. Right? I pivoted now from journalist to entertainer, content creator, personality, whatever you want to call it, right? We all pivot in our career. This is a career pivot for Dowell Loggins. He came back and took an analyst job at Penn State. And then, what was alma mater called? He's almost done a 3-year internship. Now, people are going to say, well, why are you hiring a guy that's just done a 3-year internship? You have to ask Shane Beamer that. I think it's about results, and I've said that. But I'm trying to kind of pry everybody's brain open and separate Dowell Loggins from Marcus Satterfield. And the parts of college coaching that are way different, like recruiting. If a guy wasn't serious about staying in college and being a college coach, he's not going to get out there and bust it in recruiting. He's going to be like, well, I was in the league 20 years. Okay. This is a shift. It's either going to be same old, and then I think you got to point your guns at Beamer a little bit, right? Or a lot for continuing to try to ever, or you're going to be glad you gave this guy what is his first opportunity to run a college offense. And when you hear him talk in the press conference, he almost had a list of everything Sat did wrong and said, well, this is what he did wrong. And so there's a big difference between even football knowledge, right? Between a guy that lasts 20 years in the NFL and then a guy that was getting coffee for a year and comes back and thinks he's Andy Reid. Those are two different people, two different dynamics. We've already touched on the fact he's probably a better person than Sat, as far as fitting in with chemistry and all that good stuff. So I would encourage everybody, even if you're skeptical, and that's perfectly fine, be skeptical. I'm skeptical. We're all skeptical with Dowell Loggins. Nobody's going to sit there like, holy crap, Dowell Loggins is here. Record books they're going to be rewritten. I mean, nobody should do that. But folks, we got to get a North Carolina game. I mean, you can't sit there and worry about what Clemson's doing right now. It gets toxic, and you know what it does impact? What everybody feels right now about Garrett Riley and Dabo hired him and Clemson and all that, and what everybody feels about Dowell Loggins or Shane Beamer, and what we all feel doesn't mean jack squat right now. You know what matters? Getting players. Because that matters. Will Muschamp's a pretty gifted D coordinator, isn't he? You see his last game at South Carolina? Awful, right? You see his game the other night against Garrett Riley?
Masterful, right? Yeah.
So players matter, man. I think we put too much. And look, you do need good coaching at South Carolina because, you're not always going to have players, at certain spots. So you do need to be well coached. I'm not saying that. But right now, another meltdown on the internet, on the message boards, over Garrett Riley going with Dabo and these comparisons that Shane doesn't know what he's doing. We got this guy here. All that hurts is your feelings, and your feelings mean nothing, right? Because your feelings are going to be hurt a whole lot worse if you start alienating recruits and alienating players, and the feeling from the fan base is toxic. And I don't think it's going to be. I think it's a very small group of people, but that kind of stuff can kind of spread, right? It can kind of spread. I think we put way, way, way too much emphasis on savior coaches around here, the big names. And I think that the game has changed, and I think you should thank God that someone's out here saying South Carolina's got to get over that, right? Because that's not always the way you win. And just being good whenever you have a savior coach that everybody worships, or if you think a savior AD like 90-year-old Tom Jurich is going to come in here and everybody's just going to start winning again, because fundamentally, I think a lot of folks out there have lost track of what matters, which is winning, right? That's what matters. That's when your feelings are going to be hurt, is when you lose players and you lose games. And you can go back and say it's because of the hire or whatever. Trace it. There's no way you can trace that back. What you can trace things to is in these days, because, although fans are more sensitive these days, are players. Is psychology of your players and all that good stuff, and then you lose games. So if that was the case, you wouldn't be happy. So, all right, off my soapbox there. I got some recruiting news. I got some other stuff coming up. And we'll be back after these messages right here on Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Golfers and wannabe golfers, former Gamecock golfer Meredith Taylor is now a full-time golf instructor in the Midlands of South Carolina. In-person golf lessons are held at the Country Club of Lexington, half-hour, hour, on course 9 or 18 holes. And if you're outside of South Carolina, Meredith conducts virtual lessons. Just send in your golf swing for analysis. Gift cards are available for in-person 1-hour lessons. Connect on Twitter at Mayor Taylor and find her online at McKellarEnterprises.org. Her email is on the website. Schedule your next lesson today with Meredith Taylor, former Gamecock golfer.
Gamecock Nation, do you need a place to stay for the big game? Many hotel booking engines keep all the commissions, but at Fan Plans, you support Inside the Gamecocks, still earn your hotel loyalty points, and you receive an email with direct confirmation from the hotel. Whether you are visiting Columbia to cheer on Carolina or hitting the road to follow the team, get in the stands with Fan Plans.
This is Coach O. Now back to the show. Go Tigers in the song.
Welcome back to Inside the Gamecocks, the show, everybody. The show is presented to you by Express Sunrooms of Columbia. Give John Barber a call, 803-446-4662, to set up a no-obligation consultation about your potential backyard retreat, as well as the first hour of the show being brought to you by Cindy Searfalls and the Coldwell Banker Kane Realty team here in the Upstate. Give Cindy a call. She's right down in Spartanburg, 864-414-5271. She'll be happy to take care of all your Upstate residential real estate needs. And, yeah, I don't know. You know, Clemson, JC, taking Riley, I think, was just a shock to the system, you know. But, I mean, here's the thing.
Yeah.
They're already ascended to that, you know, level of national prominence. So, you know, it would make sense for them to be able to easily grab somebody who's been the hot name. Winning the Broyles Award, you know, just kind of makes it even more intense. And I'm sure the offense at Clemson will be as prolific against ACC teams as his was against the Big 12 defenses. So, I mean, you know, it just makes sense. And here's the other thing, too, is that, you know, and I said panic move with Dabo. It's not panic. It's, you know, having to step outside of his own comfort zone to be able to adjust to the changing league itself. Because now with Florida State being back on the rise, there's a lot of pressure up here in the Upstate to maintain what it is they've got rolling, because now you've lost for the first time in 8 years to your, you know, blood rival. Your conference rival is back on the ascension, which is what I love how you and Mike term them as volcano programs, because that's what Florida State is just waiting, you know, for that dome to build up and burst. And you had to do something. I mean, you know, because obviously what the product on the field from an offensive standpoint for Clemson last year was not what's going to maintain, you know, that prominence that you have.
Absolutely. And I think the bowl game had a lot to do with it, too, because, I mean, Tennessee, obviously, you know, not a juggernaut on defense. Now, I'll say this about Tennessee's defense, that the last two games of the season against Vandy and Clemson both, I mean, how many? They outscored their last two opponents 87-14. Tigers did score 2 touchdowns against them, as they should have. But I mean, it's not easy to shut Vandy out. I mean, that wasn't the Vandy of yore. YORE, by the way. All right, Nana Sports, award-winning Nana Sports chat box. Sorry we didn't get into that early, but it's time for an opening. Sometimes I'll do an opening monologue, right? One day I won't. But I mean, no, I don't do it every day, but we'll dive right in. And happy Friday to everyone. Happy Friday to you, Clint. Happy Friday and good morning, Kevin. Nathan says, appreciate the Carolina swag, JC. Carolina Rise swag, JC. Yeah, I got that right out to you, man, and hope I know he ordered like 3 different orders, and I hope you got everything. If you don't, send me an email. And by the way, these are new products. The Carolina Rise embroidered custom stretch beanie.
Oh, that's the beanie. Oh, yeah, nice.
Yeah, it's just like a stretch beanie, so it's pretty cool. Skull cap looking thing. GC fan loves the bagpipes. Austin says, this song wants me to river dance, and with a pint of Dowell Loggins, Lord of the Dance. remember Dennis Leary was like Lord of the Dance, Führer of the Dance. And he's like, F. Michael Flatley, it's me, Lord of the Führer of the Dance.
Führer of the Dance.
Dennis Leary tripped me out. Jeff Fowler says 1801. Appreciate you, Jeff Fowler. Hope you got your magnet. The theme song reminds him of the mobile game State of Survivor. Very relaxing. I like it. I think it's cool. I wish YouTube would quit flagging me. I sent them a nasty email today because they unflagged the one that they flagged 30 days ago. And I'm like, are we going to do this every time we do the show?
That's right.
Well, because what it is that when you send, all right, so they don't really check it. Like somebody a long time ago put a copyright claim on it, right? Well, it's on this free music. I've learned my lesson about that. I'm thankful for Eric Church, the chief, because he hasn't flagged anything that we play his on the show. Neither has the opener, which is a band called Albert Hill from Spartanburg back in my youth. So we're thankful for them. But, I mean, I played Guns N' Roses one day. And, you know, Axl Rose is like a internet-hating nut job about it, and his lawyers got right all over us.
Yeah, I was going to say, I think we got that one before the damn show was over.
First day. So I've sent them I finally like, are we going to do this every episode? So our revenue's delayed 30 days. I'm like, come on, YouTube, do better. So anyway,
we
Carolina
need that
Titans
$5.
Doesn't seem like Riley was, we need the $5. Well, it's 10 now. I mean, thanks to our audience. We're up to about 20 a show now. We're doing
nice.
Carolina Titans says that does not seem like Riley was even an option. No, I don't. The only thing I could do during that search about him specific was I couldn't rule it out because there were some folks behind the scenes. It's kind of like it wasn't exactly like the Sean Miller thing because South Carolina did talk to Sean Miller and Sean Miller did talk to South Carolina. But I think it was one of those things where some folks wanted it to happen behind the scenes. And they were talking it up because it seemed logical, right? I mean, before, TCU won their, semi game or whatever, even before that, it seemed, Shane worked for Lincoln and Garrett Riley and all that. But I'm more convinced now than ever. Beamer talked to Dowell Loggins, offered him a job. There was about a 24-hour period where I think some cover was run because of recruiting situations in Arkansas. Primarily, and then boom, he was in. So I'm with you. I don't think Garrett Riley was ever an option at South Carolina. And if he was and he wanted it, Beamer picked Dowell Loggins over him. It wasn't a money thing. It wasn't anything like that. And so in situations like this, where the head coach zeroes in on a guy and goes and gets him, or the head coach has other good options and elects to go with a guy that's kind of an unknown, that's what a head coach needs to be held accountable for. That and wins and losses, and that's about it. This whole anger about not winning the press conference, that's not what winners do. That's not what people who are part of winning programs do. People will gripe and complain and all that, but not to the level of, we hate the head coach and blah, 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 blah. Not after the season Carolina had with the players coming back that year. I mean, it doesn't make any sense. But I also understand on the flip side, and I wrote this. This was in my mind to write earlier, so I'm just going to speak it. Play calling is important around here, and it goes all the way because guess who coached here? The GOAT,
one of the best of all time, right? Yeah,
and we all lived through him giving up the play calling duties in the middle of games and stuff there toward the later years, even in the years they won, handed it over to Junior in 08, which was a disaster. He had to take it back over. So we all lived through this play calling, stuff. And then who trots in here next is Will Muschamp. And unfortunately, Mike Bobo was by far the best play caller he's ever called. And so you got the Kurt Roper deal, who also went to the NFL for 1 year and got a cup of coffee. I think he at least was assistant quarterbacks coach for the Browns. Comes back, doesn't run the Cutcliffe offense after year one, tries to make, Jake Bentley into Peyton Manning, and ran the same thing over and over again. He'd blow up on the headset. Really a Marcus Satterfield kind of guy, with the exception, kind of like Roper to Cutcliffe is like Sat to Rule. Kurt Roper did call the NC State bowl game. Boy, that was an explosion of offense by the Wolfpack in that one, right? I know they didn't have Leary, but they're playing Maryland. But they lost to Maryland, 14-12? in a slow scoring game. I'm like,
90
Maryland
miles
really,
from home or whatever, you know.
Maryland really is against the team that used to be your conference rival. Maryland really is a Big Ten team now. I was like, wow. 8JM2, first time checking in since JC's illness. Hope you're back on the mend. I appreciate that very much. Todd says, I do believe by South Carolina not getting the South Carolina not getting the offensive coordinator from TCU will come back to bite us in the ass. I don't know that was ever an option anybody considered. I don't think it's good. I mean, could it potentially elevate Clemson? Yeah, but I want to say right now, it was never Garrett Riley going, well, I'd rather go to Clemson than South Carolina. And if it is, I don't know that that's a battle you can win because coaches don't care. They're not fans. They want the path of least resistance. That's another thing Mike and I always say, Phil. Mm-hmm. Interesting to see Riley calling plays when he's not with Sonny Dykes. He's been with Dykes his whole career. AJM2, he wasn't. He was the hottest name out there. We're not shopping in that section yet. I don't think it's anything to do with that. I think if Beamer had made a big run at Garrett Riley and offered him money and autonomy and all that, well, everyone would have flipped the freak out until they realized, well, he's hiring somebody from Georgia or somebody from TCU, you know. And all that. And I just don't think that, I don't think Carolina with where they were could wait that long because you're looking at Rattler and Wells and Lloyd and everybody hitting the portal with that kind of time frame. I think the time frame they had in place was fine. Even if they'd have waited till right after the bowl, they're fine. Action Jackson comes in, can't normally watch because of school, but we had a school shooter, school scare. Please play for our community. Love the show. Yeah, sure, Action Jackson. That's awful.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that's
awful. Jafar says, JC, did you see Nola Cox's response about Beamer not wanting Riley? Yeah, but I read that too, but I don't think it was ever teed up. I mean, I think, like I said, my understanding of the situation, and this is something that, unlike the Ray Tanner made him keep Mike Bobo malarkey, this is something I'm not as stand on the table about. I know this, he wasn't Beamer's top choice, and then he went to Loggins, and there are a lot of reasons for that, including the quarterback situation because they wanted Rattler to come back, and then number two, I don't know that Riley was this super interested. I do think with Sean Miller, there were some powers that be behind the scenes that were we'll give you whatever you want. This has to get, they wanted Garrett Riley. It's they wanted Sean Miller, but that wasn't, it wasn't like Miller where Miller turned the job down. Beating them was awesome, but I'd trade OCs with Clemson in a heartbeat, just being honest. You would right now, for sure. Nobody in their right mind wouldn't.
No, yeah. Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'd take him. Yeah, I'm not downplaying that guy at all. I think he's good. He's not his brother yet, and I guarantee you that. But not many people are his brother. So, No Mercy says, why do we care what Clemson thinks? Beamer's got the program rolling. Clint says, would anybody as of 1/13/23? Doesn't always play out that way. Always a chance we've got a dude and they got a bust. That's true. Titan says, do you feel like Riley's hire puts added pressure on Dowell now? I don't understand why it would. I mean, if it does, he's not a very good coach. It's the same concept as, Carolina's going to lose all their players because Garrett Riley's in town. What? And as Phil said, Jeff Scott's not on the field. I think he's going to be an analyst type. He's going to be like what Freddie Kitchens did this year because they don't have an opening. That would be a little bit more of a concern that would have a direct impact on the trajectory of Carolina's program is Jeff. Because Jeff's a good recruiter and knows the state and all that good stuff.
Yeah, it just makes sense for them to make a big name hire because right now, I mean, they are a big name brand and program. I mean, I wasn't shocked to see the news. It was interesting how quickly it happened, letting Streeter go, bringing him in immediately. But I figured that it's been in the works for a while, And here's the thing, too. It was I don't, you don't want to compare the two programs because it's a completely different set of circumstances on either side, of the state. But, you know, would you have been okay waiting if you did get Riley? Let's say Riley was the guy, right? Let's just, hypothetically, Riley was the guy. But Riley comes back at you and says, well, I'm not going to announce or make any changes whatsoever until the TCU season is over. So now that's 3 weeks that you're just kind of waiting, sitting there, potentially losing recruits, not being able to shore up Spencer Rattler, Juice Wells, having these question marks just hang out there, longer and longer and longer. Or, were you happy that you found somebody that was able to solidify what it is that we all want as fans, which is, let's have our two best offensive players come back and run it back.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. I mean, it's just out of character for them to make such a hire. But maybe that's showing some growth and progress up here in Pickens County.
Or Dabo had to go make an out of the box hire, and somebody was like, they can shop at Williams Sonoma, Carol's got to shop at Walmart. It has nothing to do with that. And if you look at how Clemson's program has been built, where are all these big names? They're not Alabama. Alabama can go and they have turnover every year, and Saban just goes and plucks guys out of the NFL and everywhere else. I mean, he's got former winning head coaches as analysts. Dabo didn't do that. Dabo primarily promoted from within and built people, that's another winning strategy, right? I mean, I don't know. I'm not getting this. Again, your desire for a big name is your problem as a Gamecock fan. It has nothing to do with success in college football. It has nothing to do with wins and losses next year. The name. What matters is the performance and execution. And I know, I mean, look, I've made a living off off-season talk. I appreciate the fact people are passionate. But come on, your feelings do not matter now. What matter? I mean, your little feelings are going to be hurt much worse when you get to the season. If your players have no confidence and it's toxic and people don't show up because of who you think needs to be the hired, who you think's a good coach, which most of the time you're wrong. I mean, and I'm probably there right behind you as far as being wrong. I think I bat a little bit better, but the average fan knows jack squat about what a good coach isn't a play, look, and see, or results elsewhere. And the average analyst, honestly, like me, doesn't know jack squat. Guys I like a style of football. But Bruin says, Gamecock Bar VC, Gamecock fans are sick of seeing our rivals go out and get guys when needed. When have they gone out and gotten anybody, Bruin? I mean, we just got finished saying that they haven't gone out and gotten anybody in 10, 11 years. When was the last guy they went out and got? Brent Venables?
Either that, or I mean, if you look at it, within the conference itself, okay, so there's the Kirby Smart thing where it was like he was looking, I mean, it was pretty darn close for Kirby being the head coach here at South Carolina until the Georgia job came open. Yeah, which is exactly how that would have ended with Kirby here at South Carolina the minute that job came open, if we're being honest with ourselves. Like, what are you going to do? You're going to have a 1 or 2 year rental with a head coach?
If Kirby had been announced, he would have pulled a Bobby Crimmins and gone to Georgia.
Yeah, he'd have
nobody
right.
Nobody in their right mind that's a Georgia graduate whose wife's from Athens. We're going to push this break. We're going to take it at the top of the hour, and we'll have an extra break in the second hour, Phil. Comes to South Carolina over Georgia, right? And he made the right move because I don't think Kirby would. This is a hot take. I don't think Kirby's the coach here, right? Probably would have gone a lot like Muschamp. And he's like, and then we got Loggins when no one outside of Arkansas had heard of him. It doesn't matter who you've heard of. That has nothing to do with anything. Do you think Clemson fans were fired up that Kyle Richardson from Northwestern High School, who, by the way, will probably be their next OC if Riley leaves because he's an air raid guy too. And people saying Riley's going to be one and done. I'm not buying that necessarily. But you think they were fired up about hiring Dabo's buddy from Grayson High School? You think anybody had heard of Todd Bates from Jacksonville State when they hired him to coach the D-line? Anybody heard of him? No. Did they throw a parade in Tiger Town when Mike Reed came from North Carolina State to coach their DBs? Or Robbie Caldwell just been fired as the O-line coach or the head coach, interim head coach at Vandy comes on down? Were they celebrating in the streets? Were you guys, since it's only big name coaches, right? Were you guys quivering in fear? Did you guys like when Todd Monken, who was probably the best coordinator in football this past year at Georgia, when he came back from the NFL, were you like, oh my God, Georgia's going to be good? No. So I understand the excitement. Wow, big name. And hey, I'm really fired up. Everybody should be fired up. Garrett Raleigh's the coach there. But you guys are letting this impact everything else. Okay? It sounds like Saban. Okay? All right. And to me, that's just ridiculous. And then this other thing. Loggins has a good year. Arkansas is bringing it back as OC after Browse is gone next year. Look, I'm going to say this right now. I'm going to go on the record. And I've been wrong before, and I'll be wrong again, right?
Wrong again.
Like little Jim Jeffries there. By the way, great comedian. Don't, he's nuts. But, if you don't like over-the-top humor and a little bit of misogyny in your comedy, don't listen to Jim Jeffries. Jim Jeffries says no. But anyway, he says that. I'll be wrong before, I'll be wrong again. I'm going to say this right now. I'm going to go on the record, and I'll eat it if I'm wrong. Right? Dowell Loggins will be the head coach at Arkansas before he is the OC at Arkansas under Sam Pittman. I guarantee you.
I don't think that's a stretch. Yeah, I don't think that takes warm, but not very hot.
Yeah, I think that's a talking point. Arkansas fans will probably disagree with me. Once a hog, always a hog. But that's the deal there. Yeah, here we go. I'm the late stone. I actually did not read your chat box entry here before I said this. If successful, will be the head coach at Arkansas yet. I don't think Pitt Boss is going to survive. Nah, they got problems. And see, that's the thing there. Kreger says Chuck Reedy was clowning us last night on Corn's show. Chuck Reedy's the worst offensive coordinator in the history of South Carolina football, and someone I respect zero. So he can actually go jump in a hole. All right. Not just for the fact that he was probably sub-SAT level and cost Brad Scott his job because he is antiquated. But he's a real jerk, and sort of a guy that I don't even think belonged in education when Brandon Shell was playing for Goose Creek. And if some of you are related to him or friends with him, I respect that. I'm not trying to get into it. It's kind of an old beef. But for him to clown anybody, go jump in a hole. That's all I got to say about that particular person, who's a complete loser at the college level, by the way. Go check his record at Baylor. Complete loser. How important is beating UNC? I think it's important, but I don't think the current subject has anything to do with it. Morning from Idaho. Xavier's in Idaho this morning. I think Abo just hired Riley out of spite against Carolina, knowing how bad we wanted it.
I'm sure that's a bit tongue in cheek, obviously. But
okay. Yeah. Pick up sarcasm. I was about to say, Dabo does not give a fiddler's foo what Carolina fans want. Dabo knew his seat was getting hot. Was looking for a life raft. I think it was kind of warm, not hot, but I think a few more years of bad offense, they wouldn't like it. Yeah, Gamecock Twitter is toxic as AF. Have you not been on Twitter? LOL. Have you not been on Twitter the last 5 years? Yeah, I have. It's tough. But it can get more toxic, I guarantee you. I like the beanie. JC says. Arthur says, JC, what would a conversation between Dowell Loggins and Todd Ellis look like? I don't know. I haven't gotten my Dowell Loggins impression because I haven't heard him talk enough. Charger Run says Carolina snatched up Loggins before Bama and Clemson could. LOL. Yeah, really funny. But was Biscuit Boy at Hall's Chop House with Miller? That's the $1 million question. Who is Biscuit Boy?
Uva.
Oh, Biscuit Boy. I don't know. You have to ask Mike that. Receiver and O-line still an issue for Clemson. Clemson's ingredients are spoiling, so I don't know who the chef is. Good morning, JC. The issue with me is Clemson hired a identity, and we hired a Dowell Loggins. Teams develop different identities different years, Rodney. I mean, Clemson's identity this year, not the same offense they've been running 10 years. Not the same. Alabama's identity, when they don't have 5-star receivers, you wait. Alabama run the same system next year, but they'll go back to running it because they got 2 5-star backs that are stud. We go 3 and out on the first drive against UNC. People are going to lose their minds. That would be the dumbest thing ever because you can't judge an offensive coordinator on an opening drive. Jared says, JC, is it your understanding it was Dowell Loggins' job to lose the entire way? That's kind of where I'm leaning. You know, there's a lot of talk out there and agents and boosters and things like that, but all that good stuff. Nathan got everything. Thanks. Jared at 8JM2 says, do you think that Shane would rather have had Darryl than anyone else in the country, including Garrett Riley? Of course not. But my guess is Shane didn't bother contacting Garrett Riley. USC isn't on his radar. I think that's a pile of crap, honestly. You don't – you guys downplay the program and the job, right? It's never been – the whole time Beamer's been here, the whole Muschamp was here, it's never been – oh, we can't get anybody else. Oh, now when Spurrier was here and they were nickel and diamond assistants to death, yeah, you know, when Tennessee's going to pay somebody $500 a year and Carolina's only going to pay $250 and they're not coming off of it, absolutely. But you know, people would at least listen, especially Garrett Riley. I mean, come on.
Yeah, and I'm pretty sure the board of trustees had very loose purse strings here for whatever hire decision was being made.
Yeah. Jared says Garrett Riley doesn't fit into what Shane's trying to do, is what it appears from the 2 guys he has hired. I'll say this is a 2-parter here. There's 2 parts to being the OC. You got to be the quarterback's coach too. I don't think he fit into coaching Spencer Rattler. He hadn't had that much time as a QB's coach, to be honest. But the actual, like, what Shane is trying to do here, Shane's trying to run the ball, throw it all over the field, and score points. And, you know, I don't have any guarantees because I don't have any proof, so you got to live on faith sometimes. But you're not going to see 20 different personnel groupings. And what I have now termed, and then we're going to go to break because this is awesome. I did it on the message board today. I say my dad used to call people that were slow, including me, slower than owl shit. I think I get that. So I've now termed Satterfield's offensive system prior to the last 2 games of the year the Owl Shat offense. Hoot, hoot, MS, you know. But, you know, that's the thing there. It's only proper to impersonate Dowell Loggins with an Irish accent. I can hear that right now. With Todd. Top of the morning to you, Todd. Oh, Blarney Stone, Blarney Marble, Stonehenge. Oh, hurt me.
IRA.
IRA. Car bomb. Hurt me. You shouldn't be making jokes like that, J.C. Sherbert. The good Lord's going to come down on your head with a fire and brimstone.
I'm very sensitive, J.C.
That is very sensitive. Potato famine. Hey, and here we go. Loggins is obviously Scottish or Irish, right? Dowell Loggins. They had a potato famine. Why did everybody leave? They had a tater famine, right? So that should make you guys happy. You should have a bunch of Irish for this coach. This is the next coach here will be. Everybody should change their name to Irish accents. My name's no longer Shane Beamer. It's Shane McClanahan.
Yeah, that's right.
This is Clayton McDougal, my defensive coordinator. And Torian O'Flannery.
Flattery.
Instead of 2001, they're gonna at the Sandstorm. They're gonna start playing like Irish bagpipes and kissing the Blarney Stone. Maybe Clemson should do that. They should kiss the Blarney Stone. We don't have a tater famine here in the upstate. We have plenty of them. They're all over the place.
Crawling with them.
Yeah, that's the first time live I think I've ever even referenced them as being the taters, but you ever talk to me in person? I don't know, man. Oh, the cranberries. Oh, my God. That would be something I could see actually Clemson doing, taters and Irish aside, is, because they'll kind of sometimes do stuff and you're like, you kind of scratch your head, like Zombie starts playing.
Zombie breakdance.
20-year-old angry war chick. This is a good song. I thought Zombie was cool. And Clemson just pulls it, dusts it off, and we're going to run down the hill to Zombie. All right, good. It's the same old
be
thing.
Sinead O'Connor.
Oh, my God. Come out of the tunnel to Daddy Boy. And then the new Pump Up the Jam, we jump around. How did I forget that?
That's right.
Jack it up. For the record, I like the Cranberries, Clint says. I like them too. But look, speaking of, this is the greatest transition in the history of radio because I was like, I've let it linger. So we got to get to a break. The show will be back.
Just as your State Farm agent combines good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates, you can combine your home, auto, life, or small business insurance with Tony Pope State Farm Insurance today. And guess what you'll get? That's right, even more good neighbor service with surprisingly great rates. In fact, Tony Pope State Farm is your go-to agent anywhere in South Carolina, North Carolina, or Georgia for the service you deserve at the price you want. So try combining your home, life, auto, and or small business insurance today. Tony Pope State Farm has been in business for more than 30 years and can handle anything you need in the tri-state area. Once again, Tony Pope State Farm will help you mix and match perfectly. Call 843-851-2222 or visit TonyPope.com today. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
Whoop, whoop, easy. He's got a tiger by the tail, he has.
He better hang on too.
People have spoken. Nana's Porch was voted the third best food truck or trailer by the Charlotte newspaper Public Poll. Also, their pimento cheese took third in a contest exclusively for products made in the state of North Carolina. I will let Noah Hall tell you about the rest. Nana's Porch, Southern cuisine with an uptown twist. If you're in the upstate of South Carolina and are in need of residential real estate services, Cindy Bass Searfoss of Caldwell Banker Kane is for you. Ask her about the village at Creekside, all of her listings in my hometown of Spartanburg, South Carolina, right there on Daniel Morgan Avenue, married to a lifelong Gamecock fan. And many of our listeners have already bought homes from her and been 100% satisfied with the detail and care she uses. Cindy Searfoss, 864-414-5271, Caldwell Banker Kane in the upstate for your real estate needs.
This is Braylon Wimmer, South Carolina Gamecock Baseball, and you are listening to Inside the Gamecocks, the show with JC and Phil. Go Cox!
Welcome back to Inside the Gamecocks, the show, everybody. Presented to you by Express Sunrooms of Columbia. Give John Barber a call, 803-446-4662. Tell him you heard it here. Save $500 off your next project. And no, AJM2, I do not think that Sinead O'Connor was the lead singer.
Hey, AJM2, you don't know Phil. Yeah. Phil's wife would, if Phil said some stuff like that, Phil's wife, Dina, would smack him. He could have been print on his forehead the next day. I know both of them pretty well. Now, I'd be more likely to say something like that, to be honest. Sometimes I mix things up, man. I walked around thinking Ray Liotta was in Terminator 2 for 10 years. It wasn't. I thought he was this Ray Liotta. An idiot. All right, so... all right, going back. Oh, Lance Player's in. I always like it when Lance comes in because he's light and happy. And honestly, the chat box, my ire was not directed at the chat box. Chat box is kind of like my escape. It's more about the message board and the same
I was gonna
five
say,
people.
that's message board driven.
The
Yeah,
same
I know where
six
that comes
people
from.
that it doesn't matter what Beamer does. You know, they don't like. You know, they'd rather Billy Napier be here or whoever they thought was coming. And it's bad, but you know, they don't like Tanner, and they find a way to work Tanner into the conversation. It's just never going to be happy. And I think a lot of those people. And look, I'm happy that people like that have an outlet. And one thing I have noticed is people that are the most negative and awful on the message board. I'll get to know them in real life. Like I'm friends with some of them now, and they're the best. They're really nice. And the people that are like kind of the rah-rah, you know, militant sunshine bumpers, they're usually the worst people on earth. And you have to have an ecosystem, folks, when you have a message board. But anyway, Clint says, you're killing me, JC. Sorry. Dolores O'Riordan. All right, so there's another name. So who could be? Pete Limbo could be special teams coach. Pete O'Riordan. Peter. You have to expand it to Peter. Peter O'Riordan. Ironically, South Carolina just lost to a team called the Fighting Irish, and we haven't mentioned it once. But anyway.
Well, yeah, you know, that goes without saying.
Jeff Fowler says, I love working Ray Tanner in. Yeah. I don't know. See, and another thing about a lot of you guys here, I don't know what your handle is on Big Spurs.
You're right.
like Carolina Rise people will email me like, hey JC, it's me. I'm like, who? Or I'll get a PM from like Big Gigantic Cock 1789. It's like, hey man, can you check on my Carolina Rise account? And I'm like, I don't know who you are. You know. So anyway, Arthur Bear's Irish accent only consists of saying Ewan McGregor over and over again. Heck of an actor there.
Yes.
Like, what up, Fowler? By the way, Fowler, Semper Fi, and thanks for your service, bud. Always got. Oh, I can't say that enough. Honestly, I just got a deep respect for all of our military, and especially the United States Marine Corps, because me and my buddy Skipper one day almost joined. Glad we didn't.
Jeez.
Could you imagine if me and Skipper had gone to the Marines?
Almighty. It's be like stripes. I could see
I've never told it. It'd be like stripes, dude. Oh my God.
No, but we're willing to learn.
But now almost sometimes I think my life would be a lot I don't know what my life would be like right now. I could have used the discipline. I'll be honest. But then I watched Full Metal Jacket a couple times, and I'm like, oh, my God. What is your major malfunction? What a Arlie Embry. Rest in peace. By the way, on a sad note, Lisa Marie Presley died yesterday.
Yeah, I know. You know,
Jeff
Beck, too. That one,
yeah, Beck was
hurt
good.
me more than Lisa Marie. Lisa Marie was a bit more shocking, but yeah, big fan of Jeff Beck. Awesome guitarist.
I thought Lisa Marie Presley was hot back in the day. She still was a good-looking woman. Priscilla's still alive, obviously. You know, the Kings, I'm like, hey, baby, how you doing? Welcome to heaven. Assuming that's where Elvis is. I think he is. Or he's like Tommy Lee Jones said in Men in Black. Elvis is not dead. He just went home. We're going to win this race. Eddie Murphy skit, he's like, Elvis would just sing a song. Elvis, we're going to win this race. We're going to win this race.
We'll win this race.
I've gotten fat enough I could be an Elvis if I dyed my hair dark like it was. It was that way in college for a while and grew it out. I have the chin. If I had like a white leisure suit, I could probably do a fat Elvis.
You could pull off a fat flying Elvis. That would be awesome.
I could.
That would be
because I could do the voice a little bit. How you doing, Mama? Well, I'd have to sing it like Eddie Murphy said. You know, hey, flying fat Elvis, I'm gonna get this harness on. Gotta put my harness on. Anyway, Ryan Peterson's even more. Ryan said twice, I'm uncomfortable. Yeah. I'm even more uncomfortable now.
Even more uncomfortable now.
All right, we got some actual football questions. Lance defends Ray Tanner, personally like old Ray, good old fella. Yeah. You know, Ray deserves some criticism for certain things, but other things he doesn't. And I always like to be fair to people, you know. So anyway, all right, we are going to take a break because we're going to have, what, 3? We have 3 this time,
they're the little ones, though. I think they're under 2 minutes each. So we're
going to break, and Quantrell has a good point he's got to make, and then we've got some other football questions. So here we go. Break time. Right back in, I think we're at 90 seconds on the show. Hey, man, are you sick and tired of your business computer guy?
Yes, he takes forever to call me back and doesn't always respond to the requests.
Yeah, same here. I'm paying him good money. I constantly have issues, and I'm worried he's not backing up my network and securing it properly.
You know what, Phil? Let's ask Stone Blanton.
Hey, JC and Phil, if you want a solution to your IT problems, give Heritage Digital a call. Our boy Matt Odom has a low-cost, one-price solution that will get you running right. Call 843-699-1001 or heritagedigital.com and ask for Matt. He will hook you up today and tell them Stone sent you.
If you're looking to sell or buy multifamily property right here in South Carolina, the Burgesson team of RE/MAX at the Lake can help you get to closing fast and easy. Adam and Derek Burgesson both are very proud Gamecocks and are more than happy to assist you with any of your commercial real estate needs all across the state. You can email Adam at aburgesson@remax.net. That's ABERGESON at remax.net to get your next deal underway. The Burgesson team, proud sponsors of Inside the Gamecocks.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it, let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
This is freshman All-American Nikki Memorial of the Carolina Gamecocks, and you're listening to The Show with JC and Phil.
Welcome back to Inside the Gamecocks, the show, everybody. Presented to you by Express Sunrooms of Columbia. Give John and his team a call or shoot them an email at johnb@expresssunrooms.com or 803-446-4662 to set up an appointment to talk about how they can spruce up your backyard or your house to get ready for the nice summer weather that will be right around the corner here. Portal receivers, JC. I know we got a couple of guys coming in this weekend.
Yeah, I think they're coming in. Xavier Weaver from USF was up in the air a little bit, but the kid from Eddie Lee from and I'll get that in 1 second. Jared had something interesting. In light of Dowell Loggins being our new OC, would you two commit to a show where you guys get drunk on Friday, March 17th to celebrate? Maybe.
Who's to say we're not getting drunk on Friday, January 13th? No.
It is Friday the 13th, isn't it? Yeah, because I guess that's St. Patrick's Day week.
Yeah, St. Patrick's Day. Yeah, Jared.
By the way, some of the best days of my life were when I lived in 5 Points when I was at Carolina. Before that, the 5 Point St. Patty's Day bash. I don't know if it's still awesome. That was the best day of the year. That band at the beginning of the show, Albert Hill, they played 1 year. Boy, that was something else. I was married then too, I think. Anyway, yes. I'd already grown out of
that. Was the days before Uber and all that too. I remember an extremely long stumble back to a hotel.
We were staying, because we were
St. Patrick's Day.
It's the Courtyard now, and it was Holiday Inn on Assembly, and we had to. Whoa, that was a long. I think you guys were with us. Honestly,
we were.
Phil.
Yes,
Dina,
we
Laura,
aided your then wife back safely home.
She was, she tied one on that day. But I think
we had to stop in the university. I think it was when the cafeterias at the university to dip in to use the bathroom.
That's probably dipped in at Russell House right there on Green Street. So, and I did not live at Place on the Green at that point. We were in Greenville and I'd gotten a hotel. But yeah, it was always a fun time. But yeah, maybe we'll do that. That'll be like the drinking show. Get Bradford on with us or something to have a few as well. Clear our schedules that afternoon because
look at this. I'm going. Ryan is sinking into his discomfort. Call that show Sloppy Cocks.
Now you're making me uncomfortable.
Lean into it, Ryan.
My God. Lean into it, buddy. But yeah, I've got that Disney trip. We're flying out Sunday because I got it rescheduled for my mom's spring break, so that was good. But anyway, yeah. I figured now I'll crap my pants if the Gamecocks men make the NCAA tournament, and I've scheduled a Disney trip. I'm like, oh man, God. Anyway, that's not going to happen. Quantrell says focusing on the trajectory of Carolina football, and while I agree the fan base can be toxic, it's also one of the more passionate of the land. Take the good with the bad. Yeah, and I don't want to look, man. I love all of you guys, every one of you, and I tend to. I know sometimes when I get fired up about something, I sound preachy. It's just me making a point, and I'm the best for you guys as fans. I don't want you to walk around like knuckleheads sometimes. But yeah, obviously, and I'll say this, South Carolina's fans during the Muschamp era and the pandemic and all that, they're starting to lose their luster because they weren't showing up. Yeah, you almost started worried about it being like basketball. But this past year, you sold it out for Charlotte, man. That crowd at the Gator Bowl was I think it's probably, without looking at the numbers for the 2010 Peach Bowl, as large. I know it was the largest crowd for a Florida bowl game Carolina's had since those two back-to-back Outback Bowls. And I can't say enough good about the fan base at large and how they showed up this year, and loud and made a difference, so I'm not trying to torture the fan base. I think that as this program progresses and as they continue to get players and win more games and you start to learn, well, Steve Spurrier's not the only person that can win big here, which is what we all hope happens. And I think it will, even if Beamer fails. I'm not giving up on that. I think Steve Spurrier is a great coach. You talk about him all the time, obviously. But there's another fit, and it's probably Beamer right now. So I think as everybody kind of gets used to going, oh, well, wait a minute. You can hire a guy, and we don't know if he can coach or not based on the press conference. But and this is the fault of the past. The Brad Scott hires, the Chuck Reedy hire, like you mentioned, Chuck Reedy, that was a disaster, even though it was only a year. Some of those more, Muschamp running out of gas, that kind of thing. Lance says, living that drill sergeant life. Jared says, what's the one thing you wish they sold in concessions at football games? Something you don't normally see sold. I'm going to go with sushi, and that's just because I don't eat it at football games. I don't eat it a lot. I can tolerate it now, but my fiance likes it a lot, and her kids like it a lot. So if you kind of could tempt them and say, well, they have sushi at Carolina, maybe I can get them to go to a game.
No, what's your thoughts? That's all right. That's all right. I might actually be having some sushi this evening, JC. We're going to go out. Yeah, Mom's keeping the kids tonight. Get a date night tonight. It's awesome.
Uh-oh, that's delicious. That'll be good. Yeah. Second, I'd probably go with pot roast.
Yeah.
I just like pot roast.
Pot roast.
So, all right. So, who are the portal wide receivers you're on? Xavier Weaver from South Florida and then Eddie Lee from Memphis are the guys. And you never know, somebody may pop up. Corey Rucker came along late last year. But if they don't get a portal receiver, I don't think they're going to cry. And it sounds weird to say because I kind of thought it was a need myself. But, they think Kelton Henderson can impact. They may move Jacob Simon, the tight end from Western Kentucky. He may play more receiver. And I have a gut feeling Nick Harbor may be a receiver, not a tight end. And that's just because I can go ahead and report this per context. Justin Stepp is going out he's got a track meet in Lubbock, Texas coming up. Stepp's going out there. So I thought it was interesting that they're sending Stepp and some others. So, if they think they're getting Nick Harbor and they like Kelton Henderson and think he can come in and they like where Landon Sampson's at, and then you got a mega plate, Kyle Horton, and then the guys we talk about. Also, wouldn't be surprised, and if you're going to move Jacob Simon in, and if your idea this year with Loggins is to play McDowell more in the slot, kind of like he did in the bowl, that's pretty solid. Now, would I've liked to have seen him sign another Juice Wells? Yeah, but here's what it is. 76. That's just FYI. Thankful for TBS, all you guys. Here, I've been out mostly with a lot going on. Appreciate this sports provide, but hanging out with you guys too. Thanks, 76. I appreciate it. I know you've been going through some stuff, so hope you're well. Peter says, let's call that show Sloppy Cocks. Lance says, need Dowell Loggins Irish Stouts. Absolutely. Yes, Kreger says, Jason Voorhees Day.
Friday the 13th. That's right.
I always forget. I forgot for a while, going back in time, that in the first one it was his mom.
Yeah, it was his mother.
And
that's right.
Mutant comes out of the lake. And, JC, what do you think about Jaden Bradford? Is that the quarterback from Chapin? That's I thought it was Jalen. Is it not Jalen Bradford? I'm probably wrong.
There's a lot of Jaden and Jalen's in football right now. Let's see.
Jaden Bradford. Yeah, if it's Jalen Bradford, the quarterback from Chapin that's at IMG now, I like him.
Yeah, that's the one, IMG. Yeah.
I would take both him and Reno. Let them battle it out, redshirt one. You're going to lose guys anyway, a quarterback. Hootie did a free concert and 5 points in 01. It was awesome. Was that the one we were at, Phil? No. Yes.
No. What was it?
No, I was still in Columbia in St. Patty's Day 01. We went though. I did go. That was at Place on the Green. That was a good day.
Yeah.
I went to that. OT from Georgia entered the portal. Yeah, I don't think they're going to go after him. He's 6'8", 350. John says, JC on top of the St. Patty's Day thing was, at least back in the day, it was on top of it. At SPD was the last day of spring break. It's topping off 10 days of drinking with more drinking. Hell yeah. hell yes. Yes, drink beer, talking ball. That's the dream. Blues Traveler played in St. Patty's Day at 5 points last year. Man.
Hey.
You and Dean have been all over that one, man. I think.
Yeah, we don't see John Popper, yeah.
Kreger says, we look more impressive than any other bowl game besides the playoff games. Yes. KFC says, dead serious during the Muschamp years. I don't know who we played or what time. I get that way about. That's one of the things I actually liked about Frank Martin, because his teams would screw around or whatever, but it'd be a February and, they're like, well, if you win the next two, you get back on the bubble. So it was always kind of interesting when he started, I guess, winning. They went to the NIT and the Final Four, whatever, and they were kind of on the bubble-ish, at least. I like that. This year, no idea. Really? They're playing? And then my friend Margot keeps, I'm not a big women's I probably watch him play LSU because I don't like Kim Mulkey. And I always watch him play UConn. I always watch the tournament games, so that's about the extent of my women's basketball fun. And I have no idea when they're playing. And honestly, baseball last year, I had no idea about game times. But the series, and once you get the SEC, they usually play either Thursday, Friday, Saturday, or Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So there's a game on, but that's funny. Football, I've never been that way, win, lose, or draw. Jared mentions we could get Cousin Shane on the show. Yeah, that's a Cousin Shane type thing, a drinking one. 76 says things are progressing. Joel.
Thanks, Joel.
Realistic Joel. Well,
Realistic Joel.
Beamer could have hired another Jeep hunter or Everett Sands. Leave Jeep alone. I know him. Everett Sands was terrible, though.
Yeah,
Rob says, trying to figure out if I did something wrong. JC doesn't read my post anymore. Skipped over the one at the beginning of the show. That's because, Rob, I'm not quite as sharp as I used to be mentally.
I was going to say
I miss
that was
things.
Probably an oversight. Yeah,
it's always an oversight. Yeah, 76 is about that the other day. I'm like, dude, I read everything. This thing is hard when you're like looking at it and you're jumping from topic to topic. So I apologize, Rob. If you want to repost that bad boy, I'll go. Eero Shy is Trevor's favorite sushi place in Greenville. My brother got married Valentine's Day of, was it 19? 19. And because I was in Atlanta. Yeah, he calls me up 2 days before. Jason, he's like, hey, Dad, I get married tomorrow. It's Valentine's Day. You want to come to my wedding? But we went to a really good sushi place. KFC says, I'm eating hog maw stew. It's good. Clint says we're going to go see Plane tonight at the theater, going to Frodo's for some pizza beforehand. Yeah, that's an interesting looking movie. And Gerard Butler. I think my fiance likes Gerard Butler's backside, so I may get her to go do that. The theater up here, Scott, I don't know if they have these in Greenville yet or not. It was kind of a new thing for me. Like, they have these theaters where, like, you sit down in a freaking lounge chair and they bring you food and drinks and whatever. It's just like being at home.
Mm-hmm.
Adair says today's show's been awesome. JC and Phil dropping wisdom. That's awesome. Clint says, come on, JC, spoiler alert, man. Well, no, I haven't seen it. I haven't seen Plane. I was pontificating that perhaps tonight, instead of heading to the watering hole, the wife and I, or the fiance and I, never mind, we're going to the watering hole. Jerry says, is Albert Hill related to the Boot Hill Band? No, Desiree's Hammer was kind of their rename and come back. Evan says, y'all's story about PE teachers yesterday was true. I forgot what I said about PE teachers.
Gosh, I do too. Get paid.
Oh, man. About how they look. Was it a PE teacher, like how they look?
You did have a PE teacher story. Jeez, I can't even remember it.
Yeah, but I was kind of talking about like the PE teacher, like the old PE teacher named Deborah. That was going in a different direction. I love PE teachers.
I just remember every.
Oh no! My fiance's friend that was married to a PE teacher.
Oh yeah, right.
And then left him for like Danny DeVito from the Penguin, right?
With the money
because he was loaded.
Yeah.
And I was talking about, do you think and I had a point about Billy Napier, slobbering the knob on this kid that is obviously extorting Florida's collective for $13 million. I don't know. I just must not have paid attention. I thought this kid was like a top 10 player in the country. He's number 56. Could you imagine? All right, so who was ranked to that category? Garcia was, Willie Korn, Luke Doty. Yeah, could you imagine like Steven Garcia demanding $13 million? He's 56, but yeah, I said the PE teacher's not going to sit there and take her back and talk all good about her. She was already extorting everybody.
Yeah,
but that's good. But PE teachers are arguably the smartest people because they get paid by the same about all other teachers to play games. And Evan is a PE teacher.
One of my wife's friends at school is like that. He tells her all the time. He was like, you know what? You could have done this too.
Yeah,
you could come to work in gym shorts and or sweatpants. You had that option.
But see, nowadays everything's so weird, Phil. It's like you can't play volleyball anymore. I'm sorry, dodgeball.
Nah.
Come on, man. You can't be a PE teacher without dodgeball. But Evan, yeah, it's this guy. I was kind of just making the point that his ex-wife was, I don't know, something that starts with an H and ends with an E, but you can fill in the blanks there. I mean, that's basically what I call her. I would never say it on the air, but and the fiance tries to argue with me. That's not what it's like. Wait a minute. She is in a romantic, physical, monogamous relationship for money. Isn't that the definition? I don't know. Anyway, Clint says I was referring to Jace's mom in part 1. Oh, yeah, I'm sorry for screwing that up. Quantrell has a good thing here. Then we got to get to another break. We have, what, 2 more breaks, Phil?
Oh, yeah. 2.
Okay. All right, good. And then Chuck shot my sushi thing down. Sushi in 100-degree heat. I don't know, JC. Sounds like something. But yeah, you're right. You're right. I forget about how. See, you got to understand, like here, the temperature's different. It's never too hot for sushi. Never. Come on. Yeah. They have sushi outside. Let's get sushi outside. Oh, my God. Anyway. Quantrell says, what would your car of choice be if you were a star athlete at USC and had a nice NIL deal? I like the Mercedes SUV quite a bit that Spencer Rattler's driving.
Tell you what, yeah, I was going to say that one Spencer was riding in. Pretty nice.
I used to kind of be as like any car I wanted because my dad had a Porsche or 2 when I was young. And that's a whole different story I'll get into at one point. But
I like those little Land Rover Defenders I see riding around, like the little one, the smaller ones. Those are pretty nice.
I like those. I also think I've gotten, because I had a truck and then something happened to it, and it wasn't my fault. I was essentially making it. My brother couldn't afford it anymore, one of them, and it was in his wife's name, and so I was just making the payments every month, Venmoing that $750 down to South Carolina. 18 months passed, and one day I walked out and it wasn't there. And so apparently she had an affair, right? And she was taking my money that I was Venmoing her because it was in her name, and just spending it with her boyfriend. Well, now they're back together. So Christmas is a little awkward. $18,000 and no Ford F-150 later. So I said, screw it. I said, I'm gonna. So Nat, because we didn't have a car. I was like, Nat, or we didn't have but one car, and we had kids. And so Nat's mom, we go to the Thai temple, right? And there's a 04 Ford Explorer with 120,000 miles on it. But the lady that's got it was in the army, and she'd always, everybody at the temple taking care of it or whatever. It's the Buddhist temple. Those folks take care of their cars, right? It's kind of funny seeing a guy in an orange robe under the hood, It's different. It's different. They pat my stomach too. I'm like, does this mean I'm fat or that I'm good luck? It's good luck.
So man.
I'm just gonna feel good. I feel like I've been there. I don't understand what the hell anybody's saying.
That's right.
But,
have you attained spiritual enlightenment up there, JC?
Absolutely. So we bought it for $1,500, dude. And the thing runs like a dream. You just got to keep the oil change because it will get hot on you. And then, unfortunately, and I'm glad that so far it's been a little bit of a milder winter. The heater broke. Usually the air goes out, right? Down south, right? Mine air's out in my car. Up here, when the heater breaks, you're in there shivering like some movie where the guys are trapped in the freezer or something. Or no, Harry and Lloyd from Dumb and Dumber on going through the Rockies.
Yes, driving on the moped in Aspen.
Yeah, Ryan says sushi is the football games as halter tops are to elementary schools. All right, so now who's swinging uncomfortable, buddy? Realistic Joel says Everett Sands endorses Garrett Riley for Clemson offensive coordinator. You bet? You think? Clint says, JC, do you think we can flip the Johnson running back that's committed to Washington this weekend? That's Dylan Johnson from Mississippi State, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. Nat comes in. Oh, my God, I've been talking about her. Happy Friday. JC Shirtfest. She's not a hoe. I'm sorry. You and I have different definitions of that. To me, that's someone that takes money for sex. Okay? That's my definition of that. Not a hoe either. You got to spell it all out. And I'm not on this show. Clint says, who's the Nat girl in the chest? All right, so Evan's got to think about dodgeball. We got to get this break, so we got another one coming right on top of it. Having a lot of fun here after preachy time. Going to still talk some football. Got some more. I got to tell you guys about Trajan Jeffcoat. And Phil, don't let me forget that, because I used to listen to the Buck and Ballou in Atlanta, right? When I lived in Atlanta in 2002, Buck Ballou, or Buck and Kincaid. Buck Ballou was a quarterback at Georgia. He talks like Snagglepuss. Hey, Kincaid, guess what? And back then, there's no internet or very limited internet where you get rumors and stuff, so it was all talk radio. He'd be going like, hey, how about Tommy Bowden maybe going to Alabama? We'll talk about that later. Or, hey, guess what? I saw a meteor speeding towards the Georgia Dome. We'll talk about that later. Or, hey, we're going to talk about midget skating. We'll talk about that later. And they never got back to it. So, hey, we're going to talk about Trajan Jeffcoat later. Don't let me forget Phil. Don't let me forget Chatbox. We got to get this break back after these messages. Hey, man, are you sick and tired of your business computer guy?
Yes, he takes forever to call me back and doesn't always respond to the requests.
Yeah, same here. I'm paying him good money. I constantly have issues, and I'm worried he's not backing up my network and securing it properly.
Oh, I feel that, man. My head hurts, but I have a good lead on a good idea. I'm calling your boy Matthew Odom today from Heritage Digital. Heritage Digital is an IT firm that specializes in making sure your IT network runs like a dream. If you have 1 or 500 employees, it doesn't matter. They do it all for one monthly fee and have clients from South Carolina all the way to California.
Yeah, I heard that monthly fee's low too, so I don't know why I didn't even think of that. Do you have 843-699-1001 as Matt's contact number?
Yeah, man, I sure do that. Or you can go to heritagedigital.com.
Man, I hear they do a no-cost assessment. Boy, this will help me.
Yeah, I bet.
I'm getting on that and encouraging everyone else to do the same. Heritage Digital, 843-699-1001 or heritagedigital.com, a proud sponsor of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
You can't handle the truth.
Gamecock Nation, do you need a place to stay for the big game? Many hotel booking engines keep all the commissions, but at Fan Plans, you support Inside the Gamecocks, still earn your hotel loyalty points, and you receive an email with direct confirmation from the hotel. Whether you are visiting Columbia to cheer on Carolina or hitting the road to follow the team, get in the stands with Fan Plans.
Yep, time to get back to the show. Shoot. All right, my man.
And welcome back to Inside the Gamecocks, the show brought to you by Express Sunrooms in Columbia. Give John Barber a call, 803-446-4662, to talk about potentially enclosing a patio or a deck for your home. They'd be happy to talk to you about it. No obligation and no cost. And just to prove that we weren't, trying to put out a time spent listening ploy. What about Trajan Jeffcoat, JC?
All right, so there we go. I'm told that he's back in Columbia, South Carolina. It's been for a couple days. Got to get admissions through and all that. I'll say this. When he got in the portal, he did have some other suitors. Probably were willing to throw a lot of NIL money at him. But he my understanding from everybody I've talked to, he wants to come home. So that's that. Okay, so here's an interesting, here's the official visitors list. Hey, he'll put this out. So Eddie Lewis, not Eddie Lee, is the Memphis transfer. And then there's another guy from Florida. And you guys will like this because he's a 4-star guy and a taller, bigger receiver, which I think they need. Florida State's Malik McClain, who's from Daphne, Alabama. Nico Collins is kind of a projection of him. Yards after catch, 4.5 speed. I'll say this right now. I think if they could manage to get him, he'd be a heck of a get because he's kind of the type of guy they don't really have unless Kyler Horton somehow comes a million miles next year. The big 6'4" guy. That's why I mentioned Jacob Simon playing out there. So that's the deal there. And then Dylan Johnson, the UW commit from Mississippi State. I think he was I don't think he was the guy that said that Leach called him soft. He's a Mississippi kid, though, going all the way to Seattle. I don't know. But he very productive player. Okay, as far as the at Mississippi State this year in their run game. I mean, that's a guy. I think he's the one that ran for all those yards against A&M. So you put Dylan Johnson back there with Henderson and Juju and Lavassier Carroll, who I think we all forget about sometimes, and him being a top 100 player. Lavassier's got to get more comfortable knowing plays and things like that. So maybe a new OC will do him some good. Also, there'll be a visitor Saturday, Tyler Fontenot, a kicker. You got to have to replace your kicker sometime, right? From Arlington, Virginia. He'll be on campus, kid from Northern Virginia. But so, yeah, back to Jeffcoat. I said the other day, I'd be shocked if Carolina ended up with him, and I wanted to get those details. Certainly, and I heard this too. They had said, the feedback I'd gotten, I was like, well, he's more productive than Birch. And just talking to someone who's interacted with him recently that sort of knows the ins and outs of South Carolina, they said he looks 10 times better than they ever imagined. So if those of you that don't like Muschamp and didn't like his staff and all that, and, kind of beyond the wins and losses, there you go. That's bad recruiting to me, Phil. Bad recruiting's not when you don't rank very high. Bad recruiting's not when you lose battles, because every school in the country does that, and the rankings are, there's an area you would like to be. It's not like the AP poll or whatever. But when there's kids in your state that you can get, and then you don't get them, and then they go on to the NFL, especially when you're at South Carolina, and that's easier said than done. But, my understanding is the previous staff, everybody was on board with him but one person. And then he goes to your division rival, and he's all SEC. Missouri, no doubt, that's not a good look. But it's a chance to correct a wrong. And certainly, I would say at this point in his career, Jeffcoat's a better SEC DN than Birch. That doesn't mean Birch won't go to Oregon and become an All-American. Birch and come back to Carolina next year wouldn't have been really good. But you start to piece it together, and there is a concern about edge, but you start to piece it together, and you have to stay healthy. But if you can, if you have Jordan Strawn on one end, Trajan Jeffcoat on the other, and then behind those two, I think the two true freshmen will kind of battle it out with, Brian Thomas Jr., and who needs to put on weight a little bit. Maybe they move Bam Martin Scott in there. Terrell Dawkins is still there. So that's kind of my thing on that. That's when Birch left, the minute I heard Jeffcoat could be a possibility, I was like, Carolina's going to be fun. It sucks to lose Birch because he's such a big recruiting win and all that. You always want your highly rated guys to pan out, but and Carolina hasn't had a lot of 5 stars. But other schools go through 5 stars not working out all the time. So this is another part of growing as a program and emerging. Evan says they played dodgeball today. They use cloth balls instead of the rubber, since they're a little softer. Yeah. Trevor mentions that it's not as satisfying as the rubber ball. Nat mentioned that she's still waiting on the Mercedes SUV. I'm supposed to get her. It's sitting in the driveway, honey.
It's not ours.
No, I'm talking about the wagon. She has a Mercedes SUV. It's just an 02. the damn seat's coming apart. Every time I get in it, like plastic scrapes and stuff. But anyway, Krager likes the new Wagoneers. Ryan says Buck and Kincaid are still growing strong. Is Bud Balloon still talking? Did they still do the teaser? Trevor's, don't forget about Jeffcoat. Clint says that's Big Spur VIP content, JC. Better check with the owner of the site before you put that out. Okay.
Sure.
I don't normally do that, but look, visitors list, it's going to be everywhere anyway pretty soon. JC Saul says Dylan Johnson is the running back with the parting shot towards Leach. Well, that's unfortunate. Respect for the Pirate, though. And then Krager says, wish Jeff Goat had more than 1 year. Clint mentions Terrell. I finally mentioned Terrell Dawkins down there. I haven't gotten very great feedback on him, which is disappointing.
Yeah.
But, not everybody in every class is going to work out. Ryan says, Buck absolutely still talks like that. You nailed it. Hey, go Dogs.
Yeah.
I'll never forget Rick's first year. I was living in Gainesville and listening to them. And you all talk about drinking on the air. They were in Jacksonville. And the Florida Georgia that year was at night. And it was Zucker versus Rick. And Rick and them were undefeated. And Florida Georgia was at night. And, you hear the ice kind of clinking around, and they were live from a sports bar, and and all of a sudden the middle Buck just is like, I just want to say go Dogs. This is what it's all about right here. Outdoor cocktail party, go Dogs. Florida, Georgia, oh my God. And then the Zucker beat them. The Zucker. And that was their only loss that year. Georgia, we'd have been talking about that year Mark Richt won the national championship probably. If Georgia had had a playoff, I don't know if they'd have gotten in 2012 when they were, because that was the year Carolina beat them, and then they were a play away from beating Bama. And they'd have slaughtered Notre Dame, I think. But if they had a playoff, that 0-2 team, the one that was sort of very fortunate, even at South Carolina, that I don't think that. I mean, Miami and them would have been a pretty good matchup. Ohio State, I think they'd taken care of. And Ohio State upset Miami, so maybe I don't know. They could have won the whole. They would have at least played for it. So
was that year that they ended up playing Hawaii? I think.
No, that was 07. Which
07,
their 07 team lost their first two. Lost to Carolina and then lost to Boise State, I think. And then they won out. And a kid from South Carolina who was like he's a fifth-year senior. Ended up being a 6'2", 230-pound end named Marcus Howard. He had just stayed there, had a great senior year, and then they beat the tar out of Hawaii.
Yeah.
And that team, had they had a playoff then, I think they would have made it in the second. No, wait a minute. No, yeah, because they beat Tennessee. All right, I'm trying to think of how that went down. Because in 07, Carolina beat them, and Tennessee beat. Okay, I'm sorry. Was it Tennessee? I need to look that up. All right, we got to need a break. I'm going to go back and research the 2007 Georgia Bulldogs because Tennessee won the division in 07 somehow. So I need to go check that out. But anyway, and I think that's also the year Mark Richt had the whole team run on the field, isn't it? Remember Urban against Urban Meyer?
Yes, against Urban Meyer, yeah.
The only time he beat Urban Meyer. So anyway, we are going to be right back. Final break. We'll wrap it up on Friday the 13th. Ooh, la bousquerie on the show.
If you're looking to sell or buy multifamily property right here in South Carolina, the Burgesson team of RE/MAX at the Lake can help you get to closing fast and easy. Adam and Derek Burgesson both are very proud Gamecocks and are more than happy to assist you with any of your commercial real estate needs all across the state. You can email Adam at aburgesson@remax.net. That's ABERGESON at remax.net to get your next deal underway. The Burgesson team, proud sponsors of Inside the Gamecocks.
I love the smell of napalm in the morning.
What's up, Gamecock fans? This is Pitcher Noah Hall. If you want some delicious food for your event, I suggest visiting nanasporch.com today to find out what they all have to offer. It's really good Southern cuisine based out of Charlotte, my hometown. I hope you guys go check it out. Go Cox and go Nanas.
I've been expecting you, Mr. Powers.
Sometime in the near future, there's a good chance I'll move back to my home area of the upstate of South Carolina. And I'm going to tell you right now, there's nobody I would use to help me find a new home except Cindy Bass Searfoss of Caldwell Banker Kane, located in my hometown of Spartanburg, Daniel Morgan Avenue, married to a diehard Gamecock. 864-414-5271. Give Cindy a call. 864-414-5271. A proud sponsor of Inside the Gamecocks, the show.
Family vacations, a new car, a new boat, all cost money, but you don't necessarily have to make more to afford any of that if you can save cash that's flying out the window now. iHelp Consulting can help you finally get the kids to Disney World, upgrade the minivan, or drop that new boat in the water next summer. Let Daniel and iHelp Consulting consult with you. No fees, just savings. You pay them a percentage of those savings. Save on essential services, credit card fees, you name it. Let them find it. These folks are incredible. iHelpConsulting.com. How can I help you?
Hey, Mo Cowboy here from the Carolina Gamecocks. You're listening to Inside the Gamecocks, the show with JC and Phil.
Welcome back. Final segment of the week. Inside the Gamecocks is brought to you by Express Sunrooms in Columbia. Give them a call to talk about a potential backyard retreat for your home. 803-446-4662. That break was just on time, JC. I had run out of all my hooch up here to drink, so I had to run to get the refill down there.
Get that hooch going, man. All right. So my memory's getting bad. I could usually do stuff like this. So Georgia in 06, right? I don't know how they shut the Gamecocks out that year, but all right, so they start 5-0 and basically collapsed. And it was all SEC East losses. They lost Tennessee at home. They lost to Vanderbilt 24-22. They lost to Florida. They lost at Kentucky. And then Carolina beat them the next year in 07. So then, in typical Bulldog fashion, they catch fire, right? They start off, beat Oklahoma State, and then lost to Carolina, but then they beat the mighty Catamounts, where Phil once matriculated, Western Carolina. They won at Alabama, and that's the only time they'd beaten Saban. That was Saban's first year. They won in overtime. Smacked Ole Miss around. Then lost to Fulmer in Tennessee by 21. And then things started getting real. They beat Vandy, got revenge. Then they went on the field and jumped around against Florida, which, I don't know if I was a fan of that or not. Beat Troy, smacked Auburn, bat revenge against Kentucky, beat Georgia Tech, and then killed Hawaii in the bowl game. So they finished, 10-2, 11-2 that year. But it wasn't two at the beginning. The Boise State and Carolina losses, I think, were in 2011. And then they won out. They won out and all that good stuff. So that's your Georgia Bulldog history here from Larry Munson. Hey, thanks, Larry. Hey, look back. Mark Rick's going to land on the moon. Anyway, Ryan says nostalgic part of my childhood, traveling to ball games and listening to Buck and Kincaid. Nostalgic part of 2 years of hell in my life. Even though I still have lifelong friends I met there, I hated living in Gainesville, Georgia. And honestly, I moved back to Atlanta like 16 years later. I was there for a short time before I came here. I didn't like it then either. I love going to Atlanta. So that's the thing there. I love visiting. I love going to Buckhead and going to games there. Heck, I even was a kid like Six Flags, Braves games. I hated living there. I don't know what it is. And I put my foot up because I've lived in bigger cities. I think it's the people. And it's so big. It's the South, but it's not. And then the people there that they're kind of their Southern hospitality is kind of worn off because I think kind of like how Greenville will probably be, Phil, when we're in 20 years from now when we're sitting around complaining about it. The people that are from there, they were once nice, but then they're like, it's kind of like get off my lawn because I know why all these people moved to Gwinnett County. All these people used to just be nothing but peach orchards and fields and horses and chickens.
We're
now,
already like that here. It's getting to that point. Yeah.
Out where my mom lives is growing like crazy.
It is.
We had my rehearsal dinner back there in 03, 20 years ago, and everybody's like, this is the country. Not the country anymore. So
nope.
We'll see sort of what happened there. All right. So, next week, Phil. I guess we're getting back to it. Sawyer Nix, The Mental Edge. We'll have
Tuesday. We'll see
Jamie Bradford on Wednesday. Chris Phillips Thursday.
Pull a few more names in, and I'll reach out to some folks and see what's up.
Yeah, I've got some folks I want to get on to. Keith coming back Monday, I would guess. Maybe. Maybe not. So who knows?
That's up to y'all.
Yeah, so we'll see sort of what happens. But anyway, Atlanta and Birmingham are the same size in 1990. That's crazy, isn't it? But I don't know. The traffic in Atlanta didn't bother me. Chicago's really crowded. It doesn't. I don't know what it was because I grew up a fan of the Braves, Falcons, Hawks. Always enjoyed it. Tiffany loves the beanie. I'll send you one, Tiff. Okay, I'll send you one since you're such a loyal Carolina Rise member. Tiffany was one of the first people in for. Actually, you're going to get one because everybody that came in. Early on PayPal, like you did, they're getting charter member. So in other words, yours will say Rise, they'll say charter member on it. It'll be similar to this. My brother's handling that. I haven't announced it yet, so there's some more scoop for you. Yeah, man, Dylan Johnson would be a big pickup. I flipping him from Washington. I mean, the kid's from Mississippi. He needs to understand something. I mean, some of our friends that live in the Pacific Northwest, tell them the differences between Columbia and up there. Although I do think that it's in what Kalen DeBoer's doing with that program is outstanding. But certainly, if you're the Gamecocks, you get a proven SEC back like that to go along with the kid from Newberry and everybody else. I think you're going to be in good shape. All right, we'll be back next week. Happy Friday the 13th. All of you have a safe and happy weekend. No sermon on Monday for me, most likely. And I apologize.
Well, you never know what the weekend will hold.
Yeah, you never know. I mean, what if hey, what if Clemson falls in the ocean? My goodness. Or Lake Hartwell. Climate change.
Climate change.
Somebody will blame it on climate change. I'll blame that one on the good Lord. If that happens, Clemson fell into Lake Hartwell.
That's fortunate.
There you go. My name, image, and likeness has nothing to do with your football program.
I've avoided it ever since it happened. I'm like, nope, not such that.
It's like,
I'm like, nope.
It was like the Cotton Gin, who I really love. Their son says Tennessee 31, the image of God 14.
That's right. The image of God.
There's somebody's out on Lake Hartwell fishing right now going, where's all this waves coming from? Is there a typhoon coming or something? Anyway, all right. Love all you guys. Thanks for joining us today. If you missed part of the show, you can catch it on podcast form here directly. Also, don't forget, JC and Morgan dropped today. Me and Mike had a really good show yesterday as well. And you'll get a full week's work from yours truly next week. For Phil Molnax, JC Sherbert, this has been Inside the Gamecocks, the show. Have a great weekend, everybody.